Good to have you with us on this Thursday edition. Ed Schultz News and Commentary from Washington, D.C. Within the last hour, it's been reported at the time of this recording that President Obama has injected himself into the 2016 election campaign. He didn't do it today. He did it last Friday night in Austin, Texas, behind closed doors. This is brought to you by PillPack, Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team. Here's what happened. Think about last Friday night. Bernie Sanders was coming off a win in Michigan. There were high hopes going into Ohio last Tuesday. But behind closed doors, the President of the United States told Democratic donors that Bernie Sanders' campaign was coming to an end and it was time to get behind Hillary Clinton. Even though that she has an authenticity problem, that really doesn't matter because George W. Bush had that very same problem, and that's what they were running against in 2008. You know, I don't know how you feel as a Bernie Sanders supporter or how you should feel. Is this shortchanging the process? Is this sugarcoating his endorsement? Look, in politics, you follow the money. And if the President of the United States is telling a group of Democratic donors that it's coming to an end for Bernie Sanders and they need to get behind Hillary Clinton, to me, that's an endorsement. And I also think personally, you may view it differently, I think it's a little unfair to the process. I thought it was unnecessary. There's going to be plenty of time for this process to play out, plenty of time for President Obama to tell donors after the process is over, it's time to get behind Hillary if she wins a nomination. I'm disappointed, but President Obama has disappointed me on a number of fronts. And so the New York Times is reporting that this was done in Austin, Texas. Reporters had left the room, but there are 3 different sources that have been given anonymity to the New York Times, and this is the report out at this hour. Look, Utah, Idaho, and Arizona coming up next Tuesday, following next Saturday, a week from this Saturday, it's going to be Washington, Alaska, and Hawaii. And then it's on to Wisconsin on April 5th. The Sanders campaign put out a statement yesterday saying that they think they can win all of those within the next month on the calendar. If that's the case, it would be a momentum shift. I'm going to exhaust this. I don't care what the math is. I don't care how many superdelegates are so convinced that they're going to be in good with the Clinton White House. This is about changing the country. This is about changing the superdelegate process. This is about breaking up the banks on Wall Street and all the other things Sanders has been very dogmatic about in his campaign. So, and I'm anxious to see how it goes in Arizona. I talked to activists down there yesterday. They claim that it's going to be very, very close. So if Sanders were to win Arizona, Washington, and then also set up a big battle in Wisconsin, it would be interesting to see where Wisconsin goes, because we all know Barack Obama was a no-show in the winter of 2011 when Scott Walker was attacking workers, and the Obama White House said, well, that's a state issue. Go ask AFSCME how many members they've lost in Wisconsin in the wake of all of that Walker attacking of labor that took place. So, you know, on the campaign world, and when you support somebody and you want to see the movement go forward, I guess there's going to be days like this. That's why we got Ed, I guess. Ruth Conniff, Progressive Magazine, Wisconsin, joins us here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Ruth, good to have you with us.
Great to be here.
Your thoughts on Obama injecting himself like this? I'm curious to see your reaction here.
Well, it doesn't come as a gigantic surprise. I mean, I think Hillary Clinton has been running as the continuation of the Obama administration. I think that's the way that he sees the wind blowing. I think that people are consolidating. I think establishment folks are consolidating behind Hillary quite a bit. I think Tuesday showed strength for her. And so to the extent that there were some people who were worried, not so much that they were Bernie Sanders supporters, but they were worried about what a hard time she's had in these primaries. I think Tuesday shored them up and kind of consolidated that institutional support behind her, and that what the president is saying is part of this.
Ruth, what's your sense about Wisconsin? Is this going to be a good place for Clinton?
I'm not so sure about that. I think that, you pointed out some of the highlights of our recent history here. I mean, I think Wisconsin is a lot like Michigan. We have suffered through a very brutal attack on organized labor, and along with that, an attack on public services and imposition of austerity and political divisiveness that has left people feeling very bitter. I think that people feel less optimistic about how well the Democratic Party in its current form has done to be a bulwark against all of that, and really are looking for somebody who can speak to the needs of working people who are really just getting hammered here. And so I think in that way it's really good territory for Bernie Sanders.
Story within the last 24 hours, Jeff Zucker, CNN, says that he has no problem with the amount of coverage that Donald Trump has received. And he made the point that the front runner always gets the most coverage, and he has no problem with it whatsoever, nor does he take any responsibility for Trump's continued success throughout the entire process. As a journalist, how do you feel about that?
I mean, they made him the front runner, right? I mean, Trump crows about it at all of his rallies. I have been to a rally in Iowa where he talked about how delighted he is by all the free media he gets and how they can't stop talking about him. And, that kind of peculiar celebrity candidacy that he's running is just fed by the media. They just can't stay away from him.
Well, on the Republican side, you've got your congressman and Speaker of the House from Wisconsin saying he's not the answer. Mm-hmm. You've got Ted Cruz trying to make the case still that he's the only one that can beat Trump, and they're talking about all kinds of scenarios unfolding at the convention coming up. There is a chance that Trump might not have enough delegates going to the convention. But then you have Trump saying, hey, look, millions of people have voted for me. What about them? There could be riots.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a new twist every day.
Yeah.
So do you sense that we're a long way from over on the Republican side on any kind of conclusion here, that this defeat Trump, derail Trump effort is very real and will be substantive come convention time?
Well, I think that's what people want, and I think that I was interested in the Paul Ryan theory, which I heard early on, that that there was this sort of backdoor idea that he was above the fray. He's helping to write the platform. He's going to be one of the people making the rules for the convention that's coming up this summer in Cleveland. That he could end up kind of being the consensus alternative in a divided, contested convention. That scenario seems like a real possibility. Although, as you said, he recently completely denied it. I think the Republicans are suffering from having been through a state of denial about Trump and his strength, and the degree to which he has just taken it to the hoop with their dog whistle racist politics. And he's saying it out loud, and he's winning that way. And it's very, very uncomfortable for the Republican Party, and they are in a state of collapse. I think the party is falling apart. I think we could see a third party arise on the right this year. The contested convention is a real problem for them because it's hard to decide whether they're going to hurt themselves in the long run with Trump or whether they're going to unify and try to win the election with Trump, which it now seems like Trump might be able to do, scary as that is to the rest of the country. I mean, it's a fascinating dilemma.
No doubt. Ruth Conniff, Progressive Magazine. We'll see you tonight on the news at 8 o'clock. Thanks so much.
Super. See you tonight.
Editor of the Progressive Magazine. All right, union folk. I keep hearing this, that so many are enamored with Trump and they don't know which way to go. I mean, this would be a classic example of how people vote against their own best interests. When we come back, Larry Hanley, he's the president of the Amalgamated Transit Union. They've had some battles as of late. I know he wants to talk about. PillPack, Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team bring you this production. We're right back. I recently discovered PillPack. It's a full-service pharmacy that takes care of everything for me. They pre-sort and deliver all my medications and vitamins in easy-to-tear packets, labeled with the date and time for each dose. Their pharmacists are available 24/7, and they manage all of my refills. They'll do the same for you. They even made sure my insurance was compatible before they transferred my medications over. It's unbelievable how much better my life has been since I switched to PillPack. Hey folks, you've heard me talk about BioGreen Clean. I'm going to show you right now on my airplane just how tough this is.
I want you to keep in mind, chemical-free, 100% plant-derived, biodegradable. It is the safest cleaner that you can get, and it's the most effective. Go to our website, wegotahead.com, or go to biogreenclean.com. www.biogreenclean and order today.
It's time to continue our conversation about mechanical insulation. Mechanical insulation is for the piping systems in our nation's commercial and industrial facilities. Facility owners are burning up billions of dollars through the lack of mechanical insulation on these piping systems. Call the iSave team. Insulation saves America valuable energy, and this team of energy conservation specialists is shovel-ready to save you money. Visit iSaveTeam.org to have a specialist give your plant an energy audit.
We perpetuate a culture of crime all the way from Wall Street right down to the main street in our hometowns. It's worse than it has been since FDR took control of the problem and said we can't count on industry taking care of the American labor. They probably have already engaged into some type of criminal cover-up, and the law prohibits the government from even doing anything about it.
Catch America's lawyer Mike Papantonio on YouTube at youtube.com/GoLeftTV.
It's Schultz News and Commentary from the nation's capital. Good to have you with us here on this Thursday. Just think if the Democratic nominee were to have 12.5 million workers, phone banking, banging on doors, Twitter, Facebook, advocating, telling the story, holding seminars, getting their next door neighbor to figure it out right. I mean, if you had 12.5 million allies out there, it'd probably be a walk to the White House. Now, labor has played a huge part in many election cycles to get their candidate elected on all levels of government. This is going to be a big battle. AFL-CIO, the largest U.S. Federation of Labor Unions, that's 56 unions, 12.5 million workers. They're now working on Trump in a big way. They've launched a digital attack ad program against Trump. Richard Trumka, who is the president of the AFL-CIO, says Donald Trump has tapped into a very real and understandable anger of working people. But while he says he's with America's working people, when you look close, it's just hot air. Donald Trump is nothing but a house of cards, and once we educate people, the house of cards comes crashing down. Once we educate people, he says. Is the anger working on some wage earners in this country? How engaged are they? Larry Hanley, one of the best out there, president of the Amalgamated Transit Union, joins us. Larry, good to have you with us.
Hi, Ed. Good to be on the show.
You bet. Is there a learning curve with Trump, with workers in this country?
Well, there's no question about it. And, Ed, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, workers have been getting screwed in this country for the last 40 years, and we know it. And, when that happens, some people draw the wrong conclusion and probably don't read enough.
Don't read enough. That is for sure. I think all of us are certainly guilty of that. But what is it? And when he says angry, voters are angry, and then they see Trump for 30 seconds a day or however news they consume, and they say, "Yeah, I feel that way too. I'm for Trump." Is it that simple?
Sure, and and you could watch Trump for hours and hear nothing except your anger expressed. He's certainly good at that.
What's your expectations of this campaign? I don't recall AFL-CIO collectively doing this in the past.
No, I think that we're all sensitive to what Trump could mean for this country and how bad it could be and just how off-center his agenda is. So, I think that you're going to see a backlash from a lot of thinking Americans. So let's just hope enough Americans are thinking.
Your union has supported Bernie Sanders, correct?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, that's your guy. All right. President Obama, it's being reported here in the last few hours that he was behind closed doors last Friday night in Austin, Texas, with Democratic donors, saying that Bernie's campaign's coming to an end, and it's time now for the donors to get behind Clinton. This was after winning in Michigan, by the way, for Sanders, and before the Ohio and Florida vote last Tuesday. So this was last Friday. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think we'd be kidding ourselves to think that President Obama shared Bernie's politics. I think that clearly President Obama is far more mainstream and more connected to, unfortunately, Wall Street and wealthy people in this country than Bernie and his politics are. So I'm not surprised that he's not supporting Bernie.
Larry Hanley with us. He is the president of the Amalgamated Transit Union. Tell our audience, Larry, what kind of battles have your workers had to face? Give us the last round of fire, so to speak, and negotiation and issues with your workers that has been front and center with you.
Well, I should say to begin with that union members are much better off than non-union members. Having said that, what our members are clinging to, for example, right now we have a war going on in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where the transit agency is trying to take away the pension of people that work for 30 years and get a $1,200 a month pension. And the agency is actively fighting us. We've been at war for a year. We've had the same battles in St. Louis and at Atlanta and all over the country. Workers, especially, I can speak especially to the ones in our union, are struggling to hold on to pensions and hold on to health care. And every time we go to the bargaining table, it's another fight. And that's because of all these things that are happening in our government and our economy.
So while the story of Flint, Michigan is front and center of the American people about how government has failed the very basics of human dignity and survival with clean water, not far down the road, they're trying to stick it to your workers.
That's right. And it's just, and the company's very clear. It's not because they have to. The pension is well funded. They just say, look, everybody's losing pensions, so you should lose your pension too.
So there's no math, the critical math that has to be addressed here. They just decided philosophically this is what they want to do.
Yes, and they're very clear about that. That's exactly what's going on.
We got to bring that story to the screen. See,
Yep.
that's that right there, folks, is exactly the kind of crap that's going on around this country that does not get enough attention. I mean, what have these workers done to deserve this kind of treatment?
Ed, let me just tell you this. We have 2 federal court injunctions against the agency there for violating the First Amendment rights of our members for simply handing out leaflets to the public.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's pretty intense.
Absolutely.
What's the conclusion? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, in terms of which? In terms of the race or in terms of Grand Rapids?
Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids, we'll fight until we win. I don't know how long that'll be, but, our experience is that as long as we stick in there, because we're on the right side of things, we tend to win.
And I think we could go to just about every union in this country. They're going to have a Grand Rapids to talk about.
And worse.
Yeah.
Look at what's happened to the mine workers and, what the auto workers have been through over the last several years. We've been through some tough times in America.
Yeah. Larry Hanley, great to visit. We'll do it again. We're going to follow up on this Grand Rapids, Michigan story. That is one that belongs on the front page, but it isn't.
I agree. And by the way, Bernie has written a letter on behalf of the workers there.
There you go.
Yep.
Thanks, Larry. Appreciate it. You bet.
Take care.
This is Ed Schultz, News and Commentary. Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, the iSave team, and PillPack bring you this production. We're back tomorrow.